I'm gonna name my top players for the Mets since I started watching by position. That is 1986, 87, 88 time frame until now. Now, some of the players that I used to like may not be your top players on those positions. But as a diehard Mets fan, I have my reason why I like these players. Now, for the first position is the catching position. That one is kind of fairly easy. You have two Hall of Famers during my time frame, Gary Carter and Mike Piazza. I also used to like Todd Hundley. Todd Hundley, I believe, hit 40 home runs in the season. I think he had the record at one time. But for me, the top catcher during my time frame has to be Mike Piazza, even over Gary Carter. And the reason for that is because when I watched the Mets, Gary Carter was already almost on a decline because yes, 86, 87, but in 88, that's when I was more mature watching the game. And Gary Carter was not the player that he used to be. And that's where I lean Mike Piazza. Since Mike Piazza, I watched him throughout all his Mets career. As the first base, on this one, we have Keith Hernandez, 298 lifetime batting average. But once again, I watched him almost at the end of the Mets, and not a lot of span on the Mets, but he did win the World Series just like Gary Carter. I believe he won the World Series with Gary Carter with the Mets. Now, John Nº§ was another one that I thought about. He hit 254, 50 something with the Mets, 4 years, twice, over 300. I believe they went to the World Series one year or close to it, or against the Yankees, I believe. He played 4 seasons, I believe, with the Mets, but you cannot deny Pete Alonso, record-breaking home run leader, rookie season, home run leader for the Mets. You cannot deny that. I have to say he's my top first baseman over Keith Hernandez and John Oliver. The second baseman, we don't have a lot of second basemen. Tim Koffel back in the day. But I have to say, Edgardo Alfonso, we don't really have a lot of good second basemen, to be honest. Roberto Alomar, but he didn't do good with the Mets. He's that great. So I have to say, for me, it's Edgardo Alfonso. Easily. As a shortstop, we could say Jose Reyes. Jose Reyes was great with the Mets. But with Francisco Lindor doing a 30 for 30 2 or 3 years ago, and he's still playing with the Mets, I have to say Francisco Lindor. So as of right now, these are the players that I have. It's catching, Mike Piazza, first base, Pete Alonso, second base, Edgardo Alfonso, and shortstop, Francisco Lindor. When it comes to third base, it's an ambulance passing by. When it comes to the third base, I know a lot of people are going to say David Wright, but for me, it's Hojo, Howard Johnson. And the simple fact for Howard Johnson is because Howard Johnson he hit, I don't know how many times 30 home runs, but I know he had 3 30 for 30s, and he led the league once in home runs during his time frame with the Mets. I believe, he led him when he was with the Mets, but 3 30 for 30s, that's tied for second most with Jose Ramirez on 30 for 30 club. And like I said, I grew up liking the Mets, and I used to like Hojo. He's one of my 2 players from back then that I had to put in the list. On my outfield, right field, yeah, we have Juan Soto. He did very good on his first year. But you cannot compare that with my all-time Mets favorite, Darryl Strawberry. Darryl Strawberry was at his peak even when he left the Mets for the Dodgers. And that sweet swing that he had, you cannot compare it. When it comes to center field, we really never had a solid center field besides Carlos Beltran, Hall of Famer, Jaime Ad. And I have to say that he's my top center fielder. Left fielder, this is a position I had to pick another player that came in, not a lot of years, impactful, that made me remember him. And that's Johnny Cespedes. Johnny Cespedes, I put him in left field, solid player in left field. And when he came over here, it was that spark that the Mets needed during that time frame. Just like Carlos Beltran, just like other players that came to the Mets and they created that spark. Well, another second baseman that I forgot, but he's not the top one. I already mentioned him, Edgardo Alfonso. I used to like Dale Murphy too. Great hitter with the Mets. Great hitter. So far, the other 4 position players that I just named right now, I named third baseman Hojo, in the outfield Strawberry, Beltran, and Cespedes. I'm not going to include a DH, and the reason I'm not going to include a DH is because more than half of the time that I watched baseball, the National League didn't have a DH. Now, when it comes to pitching, my top 5 pitchers, most of them are from back then, but I'm going to name the one most recent, and that's Jacob deGrom. Jacob deGrom, you cannot deny what he did with the Mets. 5 Youngs in the whole 9 yards. But the other 4, I have to put Dwight Gooden. Dwight Gooden, when he came into the Mets, was very impactful. Great player with the Mets. The other 2 are Hawaiian. This is a 5-man rotation, by the way. I'm going to say the last one for last. The other 2 are Hawaiians, and that's Ron Darling and Sid Fernandez. Look at their stats. Look at their stats with the Mets. Look at the complete game. Look at all the horsepower they were providing for the Mets, and you'll understand why I picked. The last one, I could have just gone with the big names. The Mets had Joan Santana, Frank Viola. Look at the Frank Viola trade, how much we gave for him. And that's what helped the Twins win the World Series. Or I could have picked Brett Saberhagen. I could have picked anybody, even names that didn't do nothing for the Mets. But this is players that did things for the Mets. And I have to say that for me, the last starter, which is not really the last starter, had to be David Cone. Once again, look at his stats with the Mets. Even with the Yankees, but we're not focused on the Yankees, we're focused on the Mets. Great stats. And as you can see, my rotation, I'll put Dwight Gooden number 1, not DeGrom. I'll put David Cone number 2. I know DeGrom did a lot, but I didn't feel like he pitched a lot of innings per game compared to a David Cone. DeGrom is not number 3. And then you could flip-flop the Hawaiians, Ron Darling and Sid Fernandez afterwards. By the way, Ron Darling, Sid Fernandez, Dwight Gooden, they all 3 pitched, I believe, with Brett Saberhagen or Frank Viola with the Mets. Can you imagine that rotation? The Mets always had a great rotation. As a matter of fact, for trivia for other teams, since the Mets expanded, we're an expansion team and joined Major Leagues, look at who has the most Cy Youngs as a team. And the Mets were number 1. That's how great their pitching was. You also have to remember they had Pedro almost at the end. And the list goes on and on who they had. And this is only including from 88 and on. 86, 88 time frame. It's not including Tom Seaver time frame and the rest of the pitchers that we have. Hopefully you like my video. Hopefully you like my my lineup all time. And this is again, repeat who it was. Mike Piazza, first base, Pete Alonso, second, Eduardo Alfonso, shortstop Lindor, third base, Hojo, outfield, Strawberry, Beltran, and Cespedes. In the pitching, Dwight Gooden, David Cohn, Jacob deGrom, Sid Fernandez, and Ron Darley. Have a good day. Die Hard Mets fan here. And 3 subscribers here in Hawaii. I mean, here in the Philippines. I'm thinking Hawaii because of the 2 pictures. Thank you, and thank you for watching.